Hi everyone, it's Kelly here. Welcome to my channel if this is the first time you've been here, and welcome back if you've been before. Lovely to have you either way. On this channel we talk books, and today I am recording a book haul for the month of December. A doozy. I had a very successful secondhand book shop, and then a couple of kind of smaller secondhand bookshops, and then I've got a couple of new books to show you as well that have come into my collection. All right, so let's start with the secondhand books, including a couple of books that I picked up today. On my way home from work, I happened to be able to pass by a secondhand shop. It was a Vinnie's, and picked up a couple of books there. So the first one is a Fredrik Backman book called My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies. I don't know anything about this book in particular, but Fredrik Backman I know is a beloved author, so I picked this one up just sight unseen because I thought, you know, I millions of people can't be wrong. I mean, they can be wrong, but I feel like he's well respected and is an author that people genuinely love. So I thought I'll grab this one. I don't know anything about the story. It cost me $4. So there we go. Picked that one up today. Another one I picked up today was The White Book by Kang. Kang is the author of The Vegetarian. I have not read The Vegetarian, though I do own a copy of it. So again, this was an author pickup. It cost me $4. Fine. I'm happy to pay $4 for a book that I don't know anything about, just based on the name of the author. The next one that I picked up was a non-fiction book called Factfulness by Dr. Hans Rosling. 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think. Again, I don't know too much about this, though I've heard quite a lot of people around the internet talking about this one. So I thought I'd give it a go, especially given that next year, 2023, I'm going to be hosting a non-fiction reading challenge. So I saw this one and I thought, yes, let's just pick this up. So let's have a quick look and see what this is about a little bit more. Okay, so it says, Factfulness, the stress-reducing habit of only carrying opinions for which you have strong supporting facts. Okay, when asked simple questions about global trends, what percentage of people around the world are living in poverty, why the global population is increasing, how many girls finish school, we systematically get the answers wrong. So wrong that a chimpanzee choosing answers at random will consistently outguess journalists, Nobel laureates, and investment bankers. In Factfulness, Professor of International Health and Global TED phenomenon Hans Rosling, together with his two longtime collaborators Anna and Ola, offers a radical new explanation of why this happens and reveals the 10 instincts that distort our perspective. It turns out that the world, for all its imperfections, is in a much better state than we might think. But when we worry about everything all the time, instead of embracing a worldview based on facts, we can lose our ability to focus on the things that threaten us most. Inspiring and revelatory, filled with lively anecdotes and moving stories, Factfulness is an urgent and essential book that will change the way you see the world. That sounds really cool. So this is a hardcover copy and it cost me $6, so bargain. So those are the ones that I picked up today. Then going back to a couple of previous secondhand hauls that I've got here. I've got a book called Father's Day by author Tony Birch. Tony Birch is an Australian Aboriginal author, I believe, and I have not read any of his books, but they come highly recommended. Not this one in particular, but I saw, again, the author's name, so I decided to pick this one up. I actually don't know what it's about because we have a friend. Not only is there not a blurb on the back, there also isn't one on the inside cover. So I have genuinely no idea what this is about. I'm guessing fathers. I don't know. So we'll give that one a go. Another one I picked up was A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. This was all around the internet, I think last year, and was, I think people had sort of mixed opinions from what I've heard. So some people loved it, some people hated it. And I think the people who didn't like it were Didn't like it because it didn't have much of a plot to it. It's more of a kind of character study and looking at things through a particular person's eyes. Which I tend to like. So I'm thinking that this could be something that might suit me quite well. Another one I picked up is called Flames by Robbie Arnott. I have just recently finished a Robbie Arnott book, which I mentioned in my November wrap-up. This is, for those who don't know, this is Xanthi. She pops up from time to time, literally pops up onto the table where I'm filming. It's fine. She just does what she does. So I have not read this. This, I believe, was Robbie Arnott's debut, but I just finished reading a book of his called Limberlost, which I gave 5 stars to. Earlier this year, I read another of his books, The Rain Heron, which I didn't like as much as Limberlost, but I did still enjoy it. So I thought this was a pretty decent bet for a book that I will potentially enjoy. So I thought I'd give it a go. Didn't I? This one is Nancy Mitford's Love in a Cold Climate. This is a vintage edition. I don't know much about this, but I know that the Mitford sisters are sort of like really interesting characters in history, and I have never read any of Nancy Mitford's novels. I believe on my Kindle I might own some other books by Nancy Mitford, but not this one. And also I think there are books about the Mitford sisters as well. Anyway, it's they're interesting characters, I believe. Don't know much about them, but I thought I'd pick this one up. How you doing there, Xanthi? If you're going to start biting, you've got to get down. That's the rules. Sorry. Or you can go up. How about that? All right. The next one is The Crane Wife. No, by Patrick Ness. Patrick Ness is an Australian author, I believe. I've never read any of his books, but he's a very well-known Australian author. So I want to rectify that. So I found this one. The cover is really interesting, and it's in really good condition, so I thought I would grab that one. On the back it just says, Patrick Ness is an insanely beautiful writer. So, what a writer. The next one is The Guncle by Stephen Rowley, or Rowley, best-selling author of Lily and the Octopus. I am not familiar with that one. Again, this is another book that has been doing the rounds that I was just on my radar as being of interest, so I found it and picked it up. The next one that I picked up is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich, and this was a nominee for the Women's Prize, I believe, this year that's just been. This is the one that is set in a bookshop, a small independent bookshop in Minneapolis, and it's haunted by its most annoying customer, Flora, for like a year. So I think it's just sort of a like slice of life, bookshop, but haunted bookshop. So that sounds like fun. We'll give that one a go. Another very popular on the internet book that I came across while I was secondhand shopping was Still Life by Sarah Winman. Lots and lots of people are adding this to their best books of the year, best books that they've read all year. So I picked this one up because it was a good price, and it has been on my radar for some time. So I was glad to find myself a copy. This is, I guess you could almost call it an epic, because it's one of those ones that goes over a very, very long period of time and has a sort of big cast of characters. So it begins in 1944, but makes its way into the modern day as far as I'm aware. So, and we meet these people who sort of kind of come together and have relationships and are just really quirky and interesting people. So that sounds like a really good book for me. Another Women's Prize nominee, I believe it was sorry, this is an ARC copy that I picked up secondhand. It's the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton. So on the front it doesn't actually say that. It says, an idol of Afro-punk, a duo on the brink of stardom, a night that will define their story forever. The final revival of Opal and Nev. So yeah, this should be an interesting one as well. I haven't heard so many people reviewing this one, so I don't kind of know what people think of it. But yeah, I picked it up because I recognised the title and thought it would be an interesting read. This is one that has come up on my recommended reading list on the Story Graph before, so I found a copy and picked it up. It's called The Artist Portrait by Julie Keyes, a story about art, murder, and making your place in history. So this is set, I believe, in Sydney, which is where I live. It says, in 1992, morning sickness drives Jane Cooper to pre-dawn walks of her neighbourhood, where she meets an unfriendly woman who sprays her with a hose as she passes by. This woman claims to be Muriel Kemp, an infamous artist from Sydney's bohemian 1920s. Contemporary critics argue that legend rather than ability has secured her position in history. They also claim that the real Muriel Kemp died in 1936. Driven to find out more about her curmudgeonly neighbour, Jane begins to investigate the life of Muriel. Murderer, narcissist or artistic genius, and a woman before her time? Who really is Muriel Kemp? So this sounds like a very interesting story. I'm very interested in bohemian Sydney, so I am very keen to read this at some point. Another book that I had at the back of my mind that when I saw, I picked up based on the fact that it was sitting in my brain as one that I'd kind of gone, oh, that sounds interesting, when I'd heard other people talk about it, is The Fell by Sarah Moss. So this is set, I believe, during COVID, sort of like the it's in 2020. So it's at dusk on a November evening in 2020, a woman slips out of her garden gate and turns up the hill. Kate is in the middle of a 2-week quarantine period, but she just can't take it anymore. The closeness of the air in her small house, the confinement. And anyway, the moor will be deserted at this time. Nobody need ever know. And then she has an accident. So, yeah, she goes missing, and it's kind of this like psychological sort of suspenseful story about what's going to happen. So that sounded really interesting to me when I heard about it. So when I saw this copy, and also saw that it was such a thin book as well, so felt like it would be something I could knock over really quickly, I picked it up because it sounds such an interesting story. The last secondhand book that I've got, this pile is getting more and more unstable as we go along, is The Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. This won the Miles Franklin Award in the year it was published. I'm going to say 2020, somewhere in that vicinity. Let me just see real quick when it was published. Yeah, 2020. So this was the winner of the Miles Franklin Award, and I have not read it. My mum has read this and she loves it, so I trust my mum's judgment. Hers and my tastes can overlap quite considerably. So I think I will quite enjoy this book anyway. But I'm also sort of at the back of my mind thinking that I'd like to kind of start looking at reading the winners of the Miles Franklin over time. So I picked this up for that reason, and also because it was a book that I've had on my radar as one that I'd like to read, knowing that it was one that my mum loved. So that was that one. All right, so that is my second-hand book haul. I've also picked up a couple of books new. Some of them were just because the price was right, and others of them were ones that were recommended to me or that I was just able to get my hands on. So that's what I have done. I also had a reward shop. You know, when you like, I've been really good, so I'm going to go into the bookshop, and then instead of just buying one book for yourself, you might perhaps walk out with 3. So that may or may not have happened. All right, the first one that I'm going to show you is Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This was one that was just the right price, so I found this for $6, I think it was, at my local Kmart. So I picked that one up because I'm wanting to read Alice Oseman next year if I can. So I'm going to start doing that. So I thought I'd pick this one up. Then this one arrived in the mail today. It's one that I ordered and it just took a little while for it to get to me. And it's Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2022. So I don't know very much about this, although when I read about this, oh, it's in the weeks leading up to Christmas. Maybe. No, I have books I need to... Kelly, no. Okay, it is 1985 in an Irish town during the weeks leading up to Christmas. Bill Furlong, a coal and timber merchant, faces his busiest season. As he does the rounds, he feels the past rising up to meet him and encounters the complicit silences of a people controlled by the church. The long-awaited new work from the author of Foster, Small Things Like These, is an unforgettable story of hope, quiet heroism and tenderness. That doesn't really tell me too much about what this text is about, but I'm sure that when I was reading about it, there was more information that made me think that I would like to read it. So anyway, it's very, very short. Maybe I can read it before Christmas. Maybe. We'll see. Right. Then, these are the books that I picked up when I was shopping. Oh, I told a lie. It was 4. I bought 4 books when I went to the bookshop. Okay. The first one is Living on Stolen Land by Amberlyn Quamelina. Amberlyn Quamelina is an Aboriginal author and poet. This is a book of poetry that I've had my eye on for a little while, so I picked this up when I saw that the independent bookshop that I'd gone into had a copy, so I was quite excited to find that one. This is Bohemian Negligence by Bertie Blackman. This is a memoir. Bertie Blackman is a musician. I believe she's from Sydney, and apparently she had a bohemian childhood. So I'm very interested to read about this, and just because I know she's a really interesting person and now I'm finding out that she had a very interesting life growing up. So I'm very interested to read this memoir. Oh man, that's a very scary pile now. The next one I picked up is called The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I didn't know anything about this. This was a serendipitous find in the bookstore, which is why I love going to bookshops, because, you know, when I'm secondhand shopping, I'm often looking for, you know, things that I'm like, oh, I know what that is. So I will go and I will have a look and will, you know, pick up things that I have had my eye on or have heard good things about. Whereas when you go into a bookstore and you're looking at new release books, I feel like that's when you have that like serendipity of like, oh, coming across something that you hadn't heard of that could be really, really interesting for you. So that is this book for me this time around. Let me tell you a little bit about this. So The Cloisters refers to the it's to do with the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and they have a Gothic museum and garden renowned for its collection of medieval and Renaissance art, and they call that the Cloisters. So that's the Cloisters to which it refers. So we've got a character called Anne, and she is hoping to spend the summer working there at the Met, but she gets assigned to the Cloisters. There she's drawn into a small circle of charismatic but enigmatic researchers, each with their own secrets and desires, including the museum's curator Patrick Rowland, whose obsession is tarot and the possibility of divination. Eager for the approval of her new colleagues, Anne is only too happy to indulge some of their more outlandish theories. But there she discovers a mysterious, once-believed lost deck of 15th century Italian tarot cards and finds herself at the centre of a dangerous game of toxic friendship and unbridled ambition. As the game being played within the Cloisters begins to spiral out of control, Anne must decide whether she is truly able to defy the cards and shape her own future. So it just sounded really, really interesting. And I've never read anything by this author before, but it just sounds like right up my alley. So very excited for that one. Ooh. I picked up a non-fiction book as well. So this is the last of those 4 books that I picked up when I did my my shop. This is called Why Women Are Poorer Than Men and What We Can Do About It by Annabel Williams. This is a UK-based author, I believe, because it seems she's referred to the NHS and things like that on the back end, things that are in pounds. So let me just tell you a little bit about this one. So this is it says, money gives us freedom, it gives us choices, but why is it that women are nearly always poorer than men? The modern world is rigged unfairly in men's favour, from pensions to the tampon tax, bearing children to boardroom bullying. Why women are poorer than men shows how society conspires to limit women's wealth. Economies thrive when women do well, and only by understanding why women are poorer than men can we finally end this unfair disparity between the sexes. So when I was reading the back of this book and just sort of thinking about it, again, this is a serendipitous find. I didn't know anything about this book in particular beforehand, but it just sounded like something that I'd like to be clearer about in my own head, to be able to speak in an informed way when I'm speaking about such things. So that's why I picked that one up. Then I've got 2 more books to show you and then we're done. This is a book that was recommended to me by a fellow, well, not specifically to me, recommended on a fellow booktuber's channel. Her name's Elizabeth Morgan, and I will link her channel below. I'll link to the video where she recommended this book. So she was getting it for Christmas, and when she was talking about it, I was like, oh, that sounds like something I'd definitely like to read. So I picked it up. It's called Femina by Janina Ramirez, a new history of the Middle Ages through the women written out of it. First of all, shiny. We like a shiny cover. And I just love the concept of this. Again, it's like that sort of hidden history that's kind of all coming out into the light now, which I love that's happening. So I'm very excited to read this one, and I think I will try and read it next year. So I guess that kind of, I probably don't need to read the back to you. That kind of gives you the idea of what this book is about. So that's that one. The last one, the last one is one that has been highly recommended literally everywhere, so I do not need to give you any further information about it, and that is I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is a memoir, and I am looking forward to reading it. I've heard that it's, equal parts well written and heartbreaking, and just the perfect memoir. So I am very much looking forward to getting to that. Do I dare add it to the stack? I dare. Okay, this is a lot of books. So I'm not going to attempt to hold them. This is my haul for December. I had a great month of book shopping and not such a great month of reading. We'll get to that when I get to my wrap up for December. Hopefully by the time I'm ready to record it, I will have read some more books, because at the moment, and I'm recording this sort of a week out from Christmas, I have not finished a single book yet this month. I've got a couple on the go, but I haven't finished any. We will rectify that. I will have some books to wrap up, I hope, by the time we get to that point, when I come to record that video. Anyway, this video will probably be going out just before Christmas, so I will say to you all now, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for watching any of my videos, even if this is the first time you've ever watched one of my videos. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really grateful for anyone who's taking an interest in the books that I'm spending ridiculous amounts of money on, and reviewing and enjoying and just chatting all things books. So I hope that you will join me again next year. I will have some more videos on the way, and I hope to be releasing some more things early in January. So I'll see you next year probably, if not before. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.